Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. The question for this week is fast food something new? Is it a new historical phenomenon? The answer is very simple no. Well, that was a quick episode, wasn't it? Okay, let's unwrap this a bit. But before we do, if you enjoy this episode, please give the YouTube algorithm a helping hand by giving me a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Okay, let's talk about fast food. The fast food industry is enormous. Globally, it was $972 billion US dollars in 2021 and is expected to reach about 1,467 billion US dollars in 2028. So, quite a lot. The reasons for the popularity of fast food are many and varied. Among them are convenience, price, and its fit with modern lifestyle. This is considered to be quite a recent phenomenon. Certainly, for most of modern and medieval history, fast food was far less popular than it is now. Historically, food and not fast food was the priority. Most of us look at the family sitting around a table and sharing a meal together as the historical norm, and it was for most of medieval and modern history, at least for the majority of people, and indeed in most of the ancient world. However, not necessarily in the big cities. Here is the oldest fast food outlet that I've ever seen. It's in the excavations of Ostia Antica near Rome. It was Rome's seaport. Nowadays, because of the accumulation of silt, it is about a mile inland, and in fact about a mile from where I live. Eating out and fast food were quite common in ancient cities of the Roman Empire. Why was this? Well, despite what many of us were taught at school, most people in the Roman Empire did not live in villas, but in apartment blocks called insula. Only the rich could afford apartments with kitchens, and even then, the kitchens were primitive and small by our standards. So, if people wanted a good meal or a hot meal, they had to go out for it. So, what did they eat? Well, generally, there were all sorts of meats and cheeses and lentils and olives and vegetables and eggs cooked in many ways, plus all sorts of hot drinks. There was also a sauce that was, if anything, even more popular than tomato ketchup is today. It was called garum, and the ancient Romans put it on just about everything. The ancient Romans might have used garum a lot like modern people use ketchup, but it was very, very different. Here is a recipe for garum. Chop the whole fish up, blood and guts and all. Mix thoroughly with the salt and optional herbs. Place the mixture in a fermentation vessel. Keep in the sun or any other warm place. Stir daily for the first 2 weeks. Allow to ferment for about 4 months at room temperature, stirring occasionally. It will separate and the liquid will be a variation of a clear amber colour. Strain off the liquid, bottle the liquid, and it will last indefinitely. So basically, it was fermented fish guts. Yum, yum. I tried garum once, and I'd like to say that I enjoyed it. I'd really like to say that. Of course, there were stalls selling snacks throughout medieval and the early modern periods, but fast food really started to take off in the middle of the 19th century. The reason for this, of course, was industrialization. Millions of people crammed into cities, and again, many of them had few, if any, cooking facilities. The demand for cheap prepared food was enormous. Let's look at 2 examples. The first one is fish and chips. People had always eaten fish, but transporting fresh fish from the coast to many cities had always been expensive and challenging. The only way to do this was to preserve the fish in some way, for example by salting or smoking. Like so many aspects of the modern world, what made the massive growth of fish and chips possible was, you've guessed it, the railways. The roots of fried fish in the UK can be traced back to the Sephardic Jewish community. Jewish refugees from Portugal and Spain in the 16th century brought a tradition of frying fish in flour. This method, known as pescado frito, involved frying the fish in oil and serving it cold for the Sabbath, as cooking was prohibited on holy days. The origin of chips or fries, is more debatable. Some sources claim that they originated in Belgium, where the villagers along the River Meuse substituted fish with fried potatoes during the winter when the rivers froze. Others attribute the invention to France, where potatoes were first cut into thin slices and fried. Joseph Malin, a Jewish immigrant who lived in London, is often credited with opening the first fish and chip shop in London in the 1860s. He combined the Jewish tradition of frying fish with fried potatoes, selling this new dish to the masses. Around the same time, John Lees is said to have sold fish and chips from a wooden hut in Lancashire. Both claims reflect how the dish quickly became popular in different parts of the country. By the 1920s, fish and chip shops, or chippies, were widespread across Britain. The dish became deeply ingrained in British working class culture and was praised for its affordability and ability to feed large families cheaply. What about hamburgers? When I was a child, I thought they were called hamburgers because they had originally contained ham and wondered why the change to beef had been made. Nothing could have been further from the truth. The ancestor of the hamburger comes from the city of Hamburg. In the 18th century and early 19th centuries, German sailors and immigrants travelling to the United States brought with them a dish known as hamburger steak. This was minced, salted, and spiced beef, sometimes smoked or cooked, which was served as a patty without a bun. Hamburg steak became popular, particularly in port cities like New York. The dish was served in restaurants, often as quite a high-end meal. It was usually eaten with a knife and fork, similar to a steak. The transition from the Hamburg steak to the hamburger most likely occurred in the late 19th century. Like a lot of inventions, many individuals claim to have invented it. The key invention was serving the patty between two slices of bread or a bun, making it more portable and convenient as food for the growing American working class. There were lots of contenders for the title of the first hamburger producer in the 1880s, including Hamburger Charlie Nagreen from Seymour, Wisconsin, Fletcher Davis from Athens in Texas, and Louis Larsen, a Danish immigrant based in New Haven, Connecticut. The hamburger gained national attention when it was allegedly served in the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. This event helped to introduce the hamburger to a broader American audience. White Castle, founded in 1921, is often considered the first fast food chain and began selling small square hamburgers known as sliders for 5 cents each. White Castle standardized the hamburger making process, ensuring consistency, speed, and affordability, all of which helped make the hamburger a staple of American cuisine. McDonald's was founded in 1940, and the rest, as we say, is history. Nowadays, there are all types of fast food, and just like the German immigrants to the United States, opening fast food outlets is a very good opportunity for immigrant communities. We now have sandwich bars, tacos, jacket potatoes, Chinese, Indian samosas, pizza, you name it, there's a fast food version of it. Love it or hate it, fast food is with us to stay. Some people decry the advance of fast food. Some say that it has even destroyed the traditional family meals. We cannot forget that for a lot of families throughout history, fast food was the only sure way of having a nourishing meal. I have to say that for me, the best fast food is pizza a taglio, which means cut pizza, not the round versions. You can walk in to the outlet and choose slices from these large rectangular pizzas, which means you can choose a wide variety of flavours. Very tasty, but far too tempting and far too easily available. Bye for now.